surgery. I see the NFL very clearly. I won at a 65% clip against
This
the
is
spread
the
last year.
same answer you gave for Joker.
And if you
That
put Justin Herbert on Philly and Jalen Hurts on the Chargers, the Eagles win the Super Bowl last year. And Justin Herbert would not have 18 passing touchdowns.
Hey, I've got a question for you. In that scenario that you just gave, the Los Angeles Chargers, with that defense, the number one scoring defense in football, that head coach and that offensive line, if you put Jalen Hurts on that Charger team, you think they get beat soundly by a flawed Texans team in the playoffs?
I don't think they make
Or do you?
it.
What? You don't? So
they're a running team.
You don't think that? You don't think that Jim Harbaugh with the Danny, they had the number one scoring defense in football.
I know.
And Herbert, hold on, Herbert threw what? 21 touchdowns, and you're poo-pooing Jalen Hurts as 18?
I watched how they throw the football.
The mechanics.
I'm sorry.
The mechanics.
Nobody thinks.
I didn't know we had Orlovsky on today. You're gonna break down as.
I'm curious. Okay, you know a lot of general managers. I'm curious. Open draft. Open draft. Everybody's a free agent. We draft the league. We think quarterbacks go first, right?
Yeah.
Who do you think goes first? Justin Herbert.
I think it depends on which quarterback.
No, it does not. If you are starting a team, you're building. Everyone's a free agent. You're telling me.
I think some would take Jalen Hurts before him. Yes.
No, they wouldn't.
Okay. Well,
they wouldn't.
You know who I bet would? Howie Roseman. I bet Howie Roseman would take it. Okay.
I don't think he would.
This guy loves.
He is not.
Wow. Okay. So he said that Jalen Hurts wouldn't even make the playoffs with the Chargers. This is getting so insane right now. And so ridiculous. I am at this point losing ways to keep conveying this. I've already done, and I have to say this now every time because there's just so much of this nonsense content out here where I have to just keep saying, I've made so many videos talking about Jalen Hurts and this, and I encourage you to go watch them. There's so many of them, and they're not repeats. I found different ways to answer the same question. But now this is a new way of asking the question or making a statement. And it's just so insane. Because listen, I think Justin Herbert is a great quarterback. And I think Justin Herbert maximized what he could do with that team. But I also believe that Jalen Hurts could do the same. Now, unlike a lot of people on TV, I'm actually consistent. I take pride in it. I've made statements in the past where I've said Josh Allen would win Super Bowls if he was drafted to the Kansas City Chiefs. Before last season especially, I was getting lots of debates about Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. I was like, put Josh Allen on the Kansas City Chiefs and he wins the same number of Super Bowls, maybe even more than Patrick Mahomes. Definitely the same number. Very confident in that. And I was like, what if you put Lamar? And people are like, well, what? That means you could put anyone on that team and they win Super Bowl? And I'm like, no, I didn't say that. I didn't say that at all. I don't put Dak Prescott on that team, Baker Mayfield on that team, Kirk Cousins. I'm not naming just any old quarterback. I think Joe Burrow wins the Super Bowl if he's with the Chiefs. And again, it depends on the year. I'm not saying every single year. I'm not saying that, every single year that the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, that you could put on Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, and you're winning all these Super Bowls every single time. I'm not saying that. I'm not. And I do believe other quarterbacks could have won with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that's totally fair to say. Absolutely. I think that's totally fair. I think there's years that Jalen Hurts could have been on the Chiefs and won a Super Bowl. And there's years that Patrick Mahomes could have been on the Eagles and won a Super Bowl. I think Josh Allen could have won a Super Bowl with the Eagles. I think Joe Burrow could have won a Super Bowl with the Eagles. I think those are fair things to say. Again, every year, which years, I don't know. You'd have to think about it more. But that does not downplay what Jalen Hurts has done for this team. You could not play any better than Jalen Hurts did in 22. He could not do any more. He literally statistically had one of the greatest Super Bowls of all time, and it wasn't enough because the defense just gave up point after point after point after point after point. Go ask Joe Burrow how that feels. And then now in 24, we want to pretend just like, well, anyone could do it. And it's just bonkers to me. When you look at all these other quarterbacks who have also had great teams over the years, and yet they failed to win, and yet now Jalen Hurts proves to win, and we just want to pretend, though, in the same sentence, that will like anyone can do it. And like I've said in my previous videos, this Philadelphia Eagles team, led by Jalen Hurts, set records in the playoffs. Not only did Jalen Hurts individually set records, but then the team as a whole did, especially the offense. Most points scored in a conference championship game. Most points scored throughout the playoffs. So then what are you saying? That another quarterback would even be more record-breaking? Would be even more historical? And as much as I praise Justin Herbert, which I do, and I defended him in his losses, I do not blame him. I do not put it all on him. I do not say, oh, he choked, he this, that. It cannot be denied. It cannot be denied that Jalen Hurts steps up and elevates in the most important moments, in the most important games. We cannot say that about Lamar Jackson. We cannot say that about Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert. We can't even 100% say that right now currently about Joe Burrow. Right now, seemingly, we can really only say it about Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and Patrick Mahomes. Of those quarterbacks in the Again, have other quarterbacks had some nice moments and big moments like a Joe Burrow, like Matthew Stafford? Absolutely. But at the rate that we've seen Jalen Hurts do it in multiple Super Bowls, I don't 100% know how Lamar Jackson would play in a Super Bowl. I just don't. And I'm not someone that says that Lamar Jackson chokes in the playoffs. I've defended Justin Herbert. I don't know how Justin Herbert would play in a Super Bowl. I really don't. I don't. Would Justin Herbert have more passing touchdowns with this Philadelphia Eagles team? Probably. You could make the argument that Justin Herbert is a better passer than Jalen Hurts. That's fine. Again, that's okay. When I've had these conversations before, it's like Joe Burrow is a better passer than Jalen Hurts, and that's okay. That's okay. Joe Burrow is a better passer than Patrick Mahomes. He just is. It's just the reality of the situation. There are many quarterbacks that are a better passer than Tom Brady. It's just, so it's just like, so that's why when we zoom in too much and make it too narrow, where we say, well, so-and-so would have more passing touchdown. It's like, okay, so, offenses are run in very different ways. And then to think that Harbaugh wouldn't fit with Jalen Hurts and what Jalen Hurts can do with his legs and passing, it's insane. It's absolutely, it's so disrespectful. It really is. Now, to be clear, I don't think Jalen Hurts can carry any old team to the playoffs. Just like I don't think that about Patrick Mahomes, about Josh Allen, about many quarterbacks, any quarterback. That's why my go-to example, and eventually it's going to be dated, but I'm always like, if Patrick Mahomes was drafted to the Carolina Panthers, he wouldn't win any Super Bowls. And I stand by that. And I stand by Jalen Hurts having the same fate. That's why if we're going to play the quarterback switch game, we have to understand what we're talking about. And if we say, oh, who could you draft starting a team? We also have to understand, what are we saying here? We have to say, well, what team do you have? Because I'm confident that Lamar Jackson can do more with less. If you have a worse team, I believe Lamar Jackson can put that team on his back. Because of his physical skill set, he can do more than Patrick Mahomes. I don't really think that should be that controversial of a statement. Yet, I would absolutely rather have Patrick Mahomes over Lamar Jackson. And if I have zero run game, you would be hard pressed to say, well, give me Stafford, give me Joe Burrow. You're like, no, I'm going to need a quarterback who can also run. We need to be able to have some sense of a balance here. You can make the argument if you have zero run game and a terrible O-line, you can make the argument maybe Kyler Murray would be better in this situation or something. Like, seriously, like, that's what you got to understand kind of the conversation you're having here. Who's the coach? A defensive coach or an offensive coach? With a defensive coach, I might trust a Joe Burrow a little bit better because Joe Burrow is a lot more of a traditional quarterback, and so I think he'll be able to get along with a more standard OC. Lamar Jackson, less so. Jalen Hurts, less so. Josh Allen's kind of just a physical beast as well, so it's like, But he struggled with various OCs. He had a little bit of a revolving door for a moment. So, like, all of these conversations, like, it depends. It depends on the scenario. But the problem is that people twist this "it depends" scenario and try to make definitive statements and try to make outlandish, absurd statements like Jalen Hurts wouldn't even be able to get the Chargers to the playoffs. Like, he didn't lead the team that was not good in 23 to the playoffs. Like, when he was a first-year starter with a first-year head coach, he carried that team. He was the leading rusher as well on that team. And his number one weapon was a rookie, Devontae Smith, and he led that team to the playoffs. So I just want to understand, like, what we're saying here. And considering how Danny's talking here, I'm confident he does not believe that Sirianni is a good head coach. And so then, like, who's a better coach? Sirianni or Harbaugh? Who's a better at coordinating an offense? Harbaugh or Kellen Moore? So it's just absurd. It really is. I just don't even know what to say with some of these things. I mean, because Jalen Hurts has won now in many different ways with different versions of this team, with different versions of the offense, needing him to pass a lot, needing him to pass less, needing him to run a lot, needing him to run less, needing him to be more physical, needing him to be physical less, with a great defense, with a bad defense, whether it be season to season, week to week, regular season to playoffs. Like, it's just so disrespectful. And again, we say something like Justin Herbert would have won a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles, and you're using that as a way to insult Jalen Hurts. And it's like, would Justin Herbert have won the Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs in 22, 23? Would he have won in any of those years? Because I don't hear. I'm the only person that's willing to make some of those statements. It's funny how people only want to do it when they believe that they're punching down on someone like a Jalen Hurts. It's funny. Nobody's got the courage to say that when it's like, oh, Patrick Mahomes. Nobody wants to say that. They're too afraid to make that type of statement because, pearl clutching. But they love to say it when they think they're punching down on someone, which is pretty weak. It's supposed to be the opposite. You're supposed to punch up, not punch down. But the good news is that you're actually not punching down on Jalen. You're confused. You think you're punching down, but you keep missing. You're like punching, and you go, uh-oh. That's what it's like. Because it's just ridiculous. I mean, it is. It really is. Yeah. It's so funny to me. It's just, it makes me realize how lucky I am. And it really is lucky. It's luck. I talked about this loosely before when I was first like trying to be like, I have all these takes. I want to create. I want to have these conversations. I love it so much. I'm trying to figure out how to do it. What do I need to say? Why should people listen to me? why is my voice worth, giving a second thought to? And it's just like, you are trying to figure out. And at first you're trying to be like, well, what do people want to hear? What do people want to see? And, we all watch these shows. If you're watching this channel right now, it's because you watch these shows and whatnot. And it's like, you see what gets clicks, what gets views, all that type of stuff. And, there is that moment when you feel like, do I have to be a certain way? Do I have to be the guy in order to get noticed? Do I have to have this be my top 10? Let me actually explain to you why, Jaden Daniels isn't there, but Trevor Lawrence is. Let me actually show you that, Dak Prescott is, and it's just like, come on. Or the guy who's going to be like, Jalen Hurts wouldn't even make the playoffs with the Chargers. It's like, okay. It's just... And when I was trying to figure out what to say and how to go about it, I was like, I just got to be myself. I just got to filter what I see and relay my takes that are authentic to me. Whether I know something, whether I don't know, whether I'm confused. It's just like, I'm just going to be as honest as possible. And I had the feeling of like, I don't want to have to pretend to be anything. And I want to grow a community or have people that either like me or don't like me. Hopefully there's enough people that like me. And it's because they like the way how I view things. It's not just because I'm always right, or I'm the most entertaining, or I have the shocking takes, or I make people feel anger because of I'm the guy who's willing to say that actually Joe Burrow's the #1 quarterback, and it's like, what? No, it's just like, no, I'm just gonna be real. I'm just gonna be grounded. I know I know TV's afraid of that, and I guess even the internet's afraid of that, but it's just like, nah. Let me just try my best, and hopefully there's enough people out there. And it's just like, I easily could have not been that way. Because I easily could have just been like, you know what? I got to go for it. I got to have hard takes, extreme takes. Like, I just, otherwise no one's going to listen to me. And I could have built a community based on that. And then I would have been stuck. I would have been trapped in that way of thinking. That's why I never wanted to troll fan bases. I always think it's dumb when someone like Stephen A is like, wearing a Cowboys hat, and he's like, haha, yeah, that's right, Dallas. And it's like, all right, whatever. That's why Nick's dropping the banners. And I'm just like, I don't want to build anything based off of like this like extra random stuff. It's like, that's fine. People like that. People are drawn to that. By all means. Entertainment is entertainment. But it was just like, I don't want to build anything based on that. That's why I don't do anything fancy. Sometimes people are like, oh, you got to play music. You got to have an intro. And it's like, man, first off, that's a lot of extra work, and it's just me here. Like, I just want to be able to fire things out, and it's like, people are either just going to like it, they're either going to be okay with this being very basic, and they're going to enjoy it, they're going to enjoy the takes, or they're not. And hopefully, hopefully there's enough people. And fortunately, I've been incredibly lucky, and I got nothing but gratitude for it. But this is what happens when you're the guy. Like, you could even hear when he said it. I got 65% or whatever against the spread. And it's like, because I'm always right. And then you build this persona. You build this foundation of like, you come to me because I'm the guy with all the right answers. And then it's like, what happens when you're wrong? And I used to say this in the very beginning when I first started videos. It's like, don't watch me because you think I'm going to 100% be right all the time. Because it's impossible. It's impossible. Which is why I so much more enjoy breaking down the flaws of logic and where things are wrong. So it's like, I'm not even here to argue that Justin Herbert is worse than Jalen Hurts or Jalen Hurts is better than Justin Herbert. If you notice, I haven't even really directly touched that. Because that's not what interests me in conversations like this. It's how they have the conversations and how flawed the conversations are. And when you take a flawed logic and try to bring it to the end of the path, you get ridiculous statements like Herbert wins the Super Bowl with the Eagles and Jalen Hurts doesn't even make the playoffs with the Chargers. It's like, That's when it's like, okay, let's unpack why that is an absolute insane statement. And the logic that you're using to get there and how ridiculously flawed it is. I mean, it's just... It makes you question, are people, how much do people watch these games? For me, it haunts me. And this is why, you have all these other things now like AI, and you got, these guys got teams of people to help them and stuff like that. And, I don't do that. And it's just like, I need to understand what I'm seeing. And it stresses me out. When I'm watching games, taking notes, it's like, I need to like really understand. It haunts me to think that I can reach a conclusion and it be wrong. Not even wrong in the sense of like, I think this team's going to win and they don't win. It's like, I reached the conclusion that Josh Allen, let's just use Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. I think Josh Allen is actually a better quarterback. I just do, than Patrick Mahomes. And it haunts me that there could be a flaw in my logic there because I'm thinking something that is there that's not there. And it's just like, and it's like I obsess, like I need like actual logical evidence, or not just, well, this is just how it is. And I've said this in another previous video very recently where it's like, it's actually incredibly easy just to have random takes. It is. And I'm going to make a separate video talking about this more. But it actually really, it's so easy to have a take like what Danny just said there. Because you're just like, yeah, because. It's like, why? Because. You could, when you just plant your flag anywhere, you're just like, yeah. And if you say it confidently enough, and then if you use stats, you can use any stats you want to support your thing. But again, especially if you're going to cook the books, which I've already done the previous video talking about this, because he showed Jalen Hurts' stats, and it's like he was using 2024 totals, and it was like, dude, when you actually look at his numbers, first off, he missed multiple games, and you're comparing to other quarterbacks who played 17 games. If you actually do it, you realize that he's right in range just from a passing perspective with all the other quarterbacks. And then you want to downplay what he does from an executing an offense as well as his own running, like rushing. And it's just like, like that's absurd. So it's actually great. It really is. Because this is actually so much more entertaining of a conversation to have, to defend this, to disarm this, than if Jalen Hurts was just loved. Imagine if Jalen Hurts was just as loved as much as Lamar, Josh, and Mahomes, and he won the Super Bowl. It would just be, you would be getting a lot of extra pandering, because especially considering how popular the Eagles are. And it would be so much more disinteresting. It wouldn't be as interesting to me. This right here brings out such the absurd extreme takes. JCT is going to know what I'm talking about because he's the one that brought this to my attention, where they had on ESPN, they had a segment where they compared Secretariat to Patrick Mahomes. And it's like, that is absolute insanity. Obviously, they're literally comparing him to a horse. There's nothing more to be said about that. This is the equivalent of that, just in the opposite direction. It's like the name of the game that they're trying to play right now is, how bad of a quarterback can you be with the Philadelphia Eagles and still win the Super Bowl? That's actually the argument and the conversation that someone like Danny is trying to have. And he's failing spectacularly, quite frankly. But when you see something that extreme, you're just like, okay. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Jalen Hurts continuing to just not get the respect that he deserves? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.